To discuss all of this and more, we are joined by a special guest tonight, Vadym Prystaiko. He's a top Ukrainian diplomat. He was the foreign minister of Ukraine until 2020. And before that, he also led Ukraine's mission to NATO. Presently, he's serving as Ukraine's ambassador to the United Kingdom. Vadym Prystaiko, welcome to WION.
I also appreciate our talk. Thank you very much.
How do you assess the current situation?
I believe the stakes are really high, and this number of Russians at our border is extremely dangerous, and as many nations would probably run for cover already. But because it's not the first time, this has been with us for 7 years. I mean, this war, we already lost 13,500 people. So we understand where it can all lead to, but at the same time, we are prepared for the invasion. We don't have to have it. We don't want to have it. We're trying to avoid it diplomatically and other means. Our partners with us, but we know how all of it can end up.
Multiple reports claim that Russia is escalating the buildup around Ukrainian borders. What is your intelligence picking up?
Yeah, that's the problem with intelligence. They always want to be away from the cameras and away from light. But what I can tell you that they are more or less now accumulating their forces 200 up to 300 kilometers from the Ukrainian border, meaning that it's not imminent danger, it's not today or tomorrow, but the forces are accumulating in such a number and in such short distance in comparison to the huge territory of Russian Federation that this is posing immediate threat to us. What bothers us that they are bringing in the tactical rocket systems and the helicopters. These things is purely attacking equipment, and they have to be closer. We will see if they get closer. That will mean that we are coming to the final stage of preparedness of Russians. We also counting things like, like mobile laundries, if they're enough to support such a number of people, the kitchens, the field hospitals. All of these things will indicate they are preparing and going up and up in escalation. At some point, it will be unavoidable. The war will be unavoidable.
The US and NATO have submitted written responses to Russia's proposals. Moscow is not satisfied with the response, but the Russian foreign minister has left the door open for talks. You say war seems unavoidable. Do you also believe there is a diplomatic solution possible to resolve this crisis?
I'm not sure how it works in your part of the globe, but I believe that rules are quite universal. You come to bargain and you're raising your hand so high in expectation that you would receive at least something. So some of the claims Russians were making, like NATO, it would roll down back to the 1997 lines. I mean, who even remember where NATO was in 1997? Why 1997? Or that NATO will withdraw from Bulgaria and Romania, already members of NATO. So these claims are so unreasonable, unjustified, that Russians were making them just to cover something they actually wanted to receive. And I believe they received some promising things, like discussion of where the short and medium range missiles will be stationed in Europe, what other conventional troops will be and where will be stationed. But there are some things they will not be satisfied, like the open door policy for NATO, which is so dear to Ukrainian hearts. We wanted this principle to be there, so Ukrainian option is open.
Why do you think Russia is escalating tensions by sending troops and conducting more drills? Do you think this is a tactic to put more pressure on Kiev and also your partners in the West?
I believe this is tactics, although you're right. They were having their exercises over the years, and sometimes they would bring 3 times more forces in close proximity to Ukrainian borders and Western borders. This one is not enough forces to topple down our military, because even at the border, active personnel is already Ukrainians, 250,000 of people. So if you take the usual proportion for the attacking, that has to be at least 3 times more than defending forces, it's nearly not enough. But they knowing how sensitive West is to the real catastrophe of war, and reminding themselves how less important for Russians the lives of their soldiers in comparison to value, human value in the West. They are, working as some sort of political ricketeer. They are creating problem like escalating, then they're expecting the other side to move, to meet them somewhere in between. That's a very simple tactic for the negotiations, and I believe that West understands it. At the same time, Russians believe that West will be in a position to pressure Ukraine to go a bit more, to step a bit more in the concessions they expect. And that's something we would like as Ukraine to avoid.
Yesterday, Germany was criticized for offering helmets to Ukraine. Today in Parliament, the Ukrainian defense minister said that we do not accept the official position of Germany on the delivery of weapons and consider this position as threatening to Europe's security, and it de facto encourages the aggressor. What do you make of Germany's response so far? Has Berlin been a reliable partner for Kiev?
I understand what Germans are doing, what they think, and they believe that they have expertise, and we have to recognize they're experts. Last two World Wars showing the expertise in such matters. So I also believe they learned some very painful lessons from their past, and they try to resolve everything by diplomacy, forgetting that actually they were invited in NATO. After 10 years, they just brought the devastation and enormous tragedy to the whole continent, and more or less to the same world. And now denying our right to become a member of NATO. This is something we believe that they're missing, at least missing in the picture. What, for example, the UK is doing, UK was not providing us weapons all these years. They were coming gradually to the point when they understood that diplomacy is exhausting itself. We have to move up in prepare Ukraine prepared, because Ukraine also showed the will to fight. We were not, crying and then walking and trying to hide somewhere. We stand tall. We lost so many people, but we showed that we are eager to defend ourselves. When you're eager to defend, people will come to help you. That's what is happening right now.
You're not mincing your words. Do you think India can play a role in the current situation?
Very interesting. You are having a growing role in the global scale, and for many decades you were trying to leading this non-alignment movement, trying to stay neutral. Many nations would try to do it, but not many of nations have a capacity and a scale and a size of India. That's why you are allowed by historic events to play the roles you are playing. But we believe that you can stay aside of most of the processes in the world. The world is getting more and more interconnected. You will have to take the interest in European affairs if you want to be a really global nation, which I see the tendency here. So I do believe that you will take the more interest, and this we were talking with you today is just showing that there is growing interest of Indian population towards the world events. If your voice can be heard, I believe even Russians would hear and listen carefully.
Interesting. Vadym Prystaiko, thank you very much for joining us here on WION.
I also appreciate our talk. Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye-bye.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.